Hi, everyone. It's me, Julie of Casachic, and I have a great guest for you today. Today, we're diving into one of the most important and misunderstood areas of reselling, authenticating and selling luxury handbags and other items on platforms like eBay and Poshmark. Today, our guest is a luxury authentication expert who has worked with top resale platforms and authenticates thousands of designer items each year. And she's here to help us understand how to confidently source, price, and sell authentic luxury handbags. Hi, Paula. Thank you so much for being
Hi,
here.
Julie. Thanks for having me.
Paula, your company is For the Love of Luxury. Will you tell me a little bit about your background and how you became a luxury authentication expert?
Awesome. Thanks, Julie. So I do always, I went to college at SCAD for fashion design. So fashion's just always been a part of my life. Um, After leaving college, I didn't want to work for a corporate office. So I moved to Atlanta and got a part-time job at a consignment store, just photographing their luxury bags. And doing that part-time, I immediately became obsessed with wanting to know what runway show was it from, what the style name was, what kind of leather, all the details. So I started as a part-time photographer for the website, eventually opened their eBay account in like 2012, 2013. I was making them 20K, just one person, just me managing their eBay online. And then eventually became the regional manager of their three stores here in the Atlanta area. They're no longer in business, but I left them in 2018 because I was just like, I can't grow anymore here. I'm already the regional manager. I don't want to own a store because I saw how crazy it was to deal with just, running a store, a consignment store. So I decided to open an authentication business. Previously, while I was working at the consignment store, I was already contracted by a other well-known authentication company. I still work for them as well as a contracted position. So I basically became a expert just by learning, making mistakes, and really working hard on my reputation and proving to people that I know how to authenticate.
Sorry, I was on mute. I was on mute listening to you. That's so amazing. So let's move into what everyone wants to know. How do you apply this knowledge, or how do we apply that type of knowledge when we are sourcing or selling? So, will you walk me through what does your typical authentication process look like from start to finish?
So when I authenticate, I'm typically authenticating via photos. You can go on my website, upload photos. What this allows is it allows me to zoom in to your photos. Because if I'm authenticating in person, I'll still take pictures because I want to zoom in and get really in deep into the details. A lot of what I look at is brand stamps, engravings, and codes. And what I specifically look at is the font. I've learned the fonts that these companies use, and whenever the font is not up to par to what they use, that's an immediately red flag.
Are there other red flags that you see, like when you're identifying counterfeit bags? Like, are there other ones that you see all the time?
Besides fonts, some things that will be funny would be like the code means actually this happened the other day. The code said like the bag was from 2007, but the bag actually didn't come out or release till 2015. So like having that knowledge and details kind of in the back of your head is kind of like, or like the Speedy cherry bag, I don't think it was either like it wasn't released in the size 30 Speedy, but the bag was at 25 and it was like, no, they never released it in that size. So just like knowing little details like that.
That's really amazing. Like, so I have like these two bags.
The
I can't
mini
remember.
papillon and then
Right.
like
This is just a cosmetic bag. But
toiletries.
these
Uh-huh.
actually, this one came in a bag that I bought actually at Louis Vuitton in the 80s
Oh
in
wow.
Paris. I don't have the bag, but I still have this. It doesn't have a code, it doesn't have a
Hmm.
date code or anything, but I'm like, I would die on the hill. This is real.
Yeah.
So are there, and this one too, this one I actually had from the 80s too. It's a cosmetic bag. It's still in such good condition on the outside. And I did have the zipper repaired by Louis Vuitton, which was so expensive. But it doesn't have anything either. If it does, you can't see it. So if something doesn't have a date code, it could still be real, right?
Yes, that's one thing I like preach on my social media. Just because it has a code does not mean it's authentic, and just because it doesn't have a code does not mean it's fake.
Right. So that's why if I find something in the wild and it looks good to me, I need to hire you to tell me, well, okay, this didn't have a date code in the
Right.
eight. It might have
Or
one now.
sometimes people don't know where to look. They're
Right.
really hidden, and even when people send me submissions, I'll grab an example and I'll be like, "Look here," and they're like, "Oh my God, how did I miss that?"
Sometimes they are hidden so well. I do consignment work, and I will tell you, by the way, my consignment clients are not giving me bags lately. They are holding on to them like they are Rolexes right now.
Mhm.
But when they do, like sometimes I'm so sure, like these people, I'm 100% sure they're real, and I cannot find the date code. And I'm like looking, I'm like, it has to be there. And I'll put it down and then I'll look again. I don't, they hide them very well. So that is
Yeah.
something. So if you are out in the wild and you don't see it, it may be there. You're just not looking in the right place, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So which brands are like the hardest to authenticate and like why?
So, brands that I like to stay away from is Hermes leather, mainly because of the high price tag. So when someone submits an Hermes, if it's an obvious fake, I can let you know. But if I think there's a good chance it's authentic, that's a $20,000 bag. I'm not going to put my stamp of approval because the counterfeits are just getting so good. They're using the same quality leather. They're taking the same amount of hours to make. It's just not that it's not being sold by Hermes. Same kind of craftsmanship quality. Another one that I depends on the style is Saint Laurent. Saint Laurent hides their codes in their pockets, but their pockets don't open up a lot, so it's very hard to photograph the codes. And a lot of my customers will be like, "I'll read it to you, or I'll let you know what the code says." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, I need to visually see it because the codes will match authentic ones, but it's all in the font."
So
So Saint Laurent is what I like to stay away from
now,
as
do you
well.
think like the fake to me, like I had a Polen in my cart the other day, and I'm pretty good at authenticating in person, and it was really good leather and it looked good. And I was like, oh, this is an exciting find. And then I looked and the stitching was a little off, and I'm like, this is a fake bag. So the fakes are getting better and better,
Oh
right?
yes. I think since 20, I want to say since like 2019, 2020, the the quality in the fakes have gotten so good. Now the new brand like now Chanel and Louis Vuitton are doing chipped bags where they're not using codes. Counterfeits are also putting chips in their bags. I've tested a fake one before. So when people get that NFT tool and they scan their bag, random codes will come up and I tell them I won't authenticate it because I've done it with the fake. The codes come up. The only people who will know if those are authentic is the brand itself when they scan it using their system. That information is not available to us. It's, within the company.
Right. So on that note, I know a lot of people say, well, I found this, and one of my pieces of advice, I give tips of the day every day. I'm like, do not ask the internet if something is
Oh,
real. Because
biggest
half
pet
the people,
peeve.
right, half the people say it's real, half the people say it's fake. Some of them are well intentioned, some of them are just being jerks. And then there's always somebody say, just go bring it into Louis Vuitton. They'll authenticate it for you. They won't. No store will
No,
authenticate for you, right?
no. And depending on who the clerk is working, they may confiscate it if they believe it's counterfeit. Also, they're not trained to authenticate.
Right. Right. So that is bad advice, everyone. Do not go traipsing into the mall with your thrifted Louis Vuitton because they will not authenticate it. Um, so when we're out there in the wild, so I mean, do you do you ever thrift for
I do
reselling?
for
Okay.
fun. Yeah, for
Okay.
fun.
Okay.
It's
Right.
therapy.
Right. I know. It really is fun. I think like I have found probably every brand authentic in the thrift store during my years of thrifting, but I would say more than 99.9% of the higher end luxury brands that you see at the thrift store are fake. So what, but they're out there and sometimes they miss them. Usually if they're in bad condition. I found Louis Vuitton and Prada in bad condition, but able to be rehabbed
Hmm.
like for $5. Like the thrift store just thought it was fake because it was so beat up.
Hmm.
But the stuff behind the counter is usually fake. But what are some like quick things? So if I go into the thrift store today and I find a Chanel bag just sitting there,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
like what are some like obviously you can't tell us everything, but what are some of like the things like what's a
Tips to help
quick
you.
checklist?
Okay. This is, I typically don't share this secret. So,
Okay,
what I would suggest you do, let's pretend you are at the thrift store and you found this Chanel black Cambon quilted tote. What I would suggest you do if you want like a quick little guide is Google Lens it. If you don't know like the style name, you need help finding the style name, search the style name bag and then look for someone who is a reputable seller that has listed the item. For example, Yugi's Closet, Fashion File. I don't recommend the Real because they don't show detailed photos of the stamps and the codes on their listings. So I will suggest Yugi's or Fashion File. Most of the time, they do zoom into the codes and the stamps. Then I would suggest look at the listing and look at your actual bag and kind of compare up close. Does the sticker design match? Does the code font look the same? Does the stamp, the hardware, is the monogram placed exactly like theirs? That's what I would do if you have absolutely no knowledge and just need a little guidance on the spot.
that's a great tip. I also think that when you are near the bougie stores, even if you don't intend on buying, go and
Yes.
smell them and touch them
Yes.
and feel them, and you will start learning that they're really a lot nicer than the fakes. Like you can, the leather is perfect, the stitching is
Hmm.
perfect. So that's always a good way. So when you're somewhere where they're being sold, like the Louis Vuitton store or in Saks or wherever, go
Or
and
if you're
be,
intimidated, go to a reputable consignment store that specializes in luxury, and then you can see
right.
all the brands in one
Yeah,
place.
that's a great tip too. That's those are helpful sourcing decision. I like that. That's really helpful. Okay. So right now, um, what brands are like really hot on the resale market right now?
I would say Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and Chanel. Chanel has been maintaining a very high resale market price. Gucci, I think in the resale market is can be affordable. I think it's more of the affordable high-end luxury brands, especially in the resale market. And Louis Vuitton, it's just a classic. It's just a classic brand that people love.
Well, I think the price of them new is gone through the roof. I remember I
Yes.
bought a Neverfull when it came
For
out.
like
The when
$700.
I think it was 695, and that was like a big purchase, but I had my stores at the time. I had another business besides reselling, and I was like I needed that bag, and I went and I bought it, and it was like $700, which was a lot of money at the time. But now
$2,100, I think, the last time
and
I
it's
checked.
like a tote bag. Like I mean, so it's not surprising that secondhand luxury is just so hot and that um, even people who could afford to go buy it for $2,100 without it being a big deal
Hmm.
um, are looking online for
Yeah.
really well maintained pre-owned bags because even they're like kind of like, oh, like the prices are crazy. So
Yeah.
it's such a good field for sellers to go into if they come across or they have consignment clients or whatever. Now, I don't want to name any names, but we already said some of them. So just because I buy something from a luxury resale site doesn't mean it's necessarily real, right?
Correct. I always tell my clients it's always good to get a second opinion, not because these companies are intently or purposefully selling you a counterfeit. Sometimes things just slip through the cracks, and it's
Right.
always a good idea. I even tell people who come to me, I'm like, look, I think this is real, but because it's a high value, I definitely suggest you get a second set of eyes because I just like that extra security. It's always good
I
just
like
to get
that
that
too.
opinion.
Right. My husband was looking at a fancy watch that was secondhand when we were on our cruise ship, and he wasn't going to buy it, but I was like, if you buy that, you immediately need to get it authenticated by somebody else, because if you go to sell it in 5 years and they're like, this is a Chinatown fake, man, you're out of luck. Like if
Yeah.
you buy something today and you get it authenticated today by somebody else, you have recourse. You can file a credit card dispute, or you can contact the seller and be like, yo, you said it was real, but Paula
Hmm.
says no, 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 and here's the
The
proof.
reason, yeah.
You'll be able to get your money back way easier than if 3 years
You
from
wait.
now
Uh-huh.
and you're like, wait, that Louis Vuitton bag needs to be fixed, and you take it into Louis Vuitton, and they're like, we're not touching it,
Yeah.
So it's a good idea to especially if you've invested money into something, to spend a few extra dollars and have you take a look at it and make sure, right?
Yeah.
So how much does having like so I have consignment clients, and I will tell you, the really wealthy ones, the super ones, the ones with the private planes, do not keep any of the stuff. They don't keep the dust bag. They don't keep the box. They don't keep all the stuff that if I buy something luxury, that bag is like on my counter for months. Like I'm like, oh, look at the pretty Chanel bag. No, they don't keep any of it. They throw it away. And because they have beautiful display closets where their bags
Yeah,
and
they don't
their
have room for
shoes are.
all the extra stuff.
Right. So they literally throw, I'm like, give it to me. But how much does all of that stuff affect the resale value? Does it?
I think it does, in my opinion, specifically if the bag or the item is in like new condition. Um, the dust bag, the box, the ribbon, all that extra stuff, I think I always price a little higher than I would if it was just the bag, because now you can market it as a giftable. And
Right.
people are willing to pay top dollar if it comes as a full set or as a giftable item.
I
Because
like
it feels
that.
like you just walked out of the store,
Right.
you have
Right.
the full
Right.
package.
I do have clients who give me all of that, but I'm telling you, the really rich ones, they throw
They
it
don't care.
away. Right. Um, okay. So when you are listing, so let's say I find that Chanel bag at the thrift store, and it's real. Send you photos, and you are like, yeah, you found the treasure, right? What should I do as a seller when I'm listing it? What should I put in my photos and in my listing to help buyers feel confident that it is real?
Yes. I always recommend you take close, detailed, good, clear photos of any codes, made in Italy, made in France, any kind of made in stamp, the brand stamp. And in your listing, also, I mean, this is subjective, but I like to write, something like authenticity guaranteed, meaning like if for any reason it's counterfeit, I will happily give you a refund. Also, you want to make sure all the photos of the details, like the codes and stamps, are available because if for any reason someone who's interested is like, hey, I'm really interested, just not sure of the authenticity, you can reply to them. I have provided all detailed photos needed to get authenticated prior to buying. If you'd like to submit my photos to an authentication company of your choice, they already have all the information if they would like to get it authenticated by their party of choice.
Now, now I find that Chanel bag at the thrift store or the garage sale or whatever, and I go to you, I send you the photos, and you're like, yep, it's real.
Mhm.
Um, I should do that first, right? Rather than list it and then send
Yes.
it to eBay authentication or
Yeah,
Poshmark authentication or any other,
absolutely.
or
Uh-huh.
even Macari will authenticate when you list. Does that, I know the answer to this, does if you just say, you know what, I'm going to list it, and if it doesn't pass authentication, well,
You wasted your time. You wasted your time just waiting for it to sell, to list it, photograph it, the script. I think you wasted your time.
well, I also have heard directly from eBay that if that happens too many times, they won't let you list
Flag.
products. So on eBay, handbags over $500, sneakers over 150, certain brands,
Hmm.
streetwear. They're doing wallets and belts. watches, jewelry, trading cards. I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, those, if you list any of those brands or any of those brands that meet the threshold, so they don't authenticate all sneakers, but they have a list of brands, they have a
Mhm.
list of handbags. Even if you sell it, if you list it for over $500 and you sell it for less than $500, it does go to authentication.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes.
Look at me
Yes.
learning stuff.
And if you fail authentication too many times, they won't let you list those items. You'll get a mark on your
Ding.
account. So you don't want to get a reputation. You
Hmm.
don't want the AI of those companies to say, well, Julie, she sells fake stuff. And the same with Macari. So if you're like, you know what, I'm just going to upload it to Macari and they won't let me list it if it's fake. If you that happens too many times, they may just not let you list it at all. You don't
Get
want
it.
to be on the record as being a troublemaker, I guess.
Right. Yes.
So if I go to you, so let's say I do it the right way, I find the bag, I send you photos. You say, I pay you to authenticate it. You say, yes, it's real. And I list it. You give me a certificate or,
So you'd get an email response letting you know if it's
right,
authentic or counterfeit.
right,
And in that email response, I have like a little crest that says green, it's authentic, or red. A lot of
right,
the clients I have will screenshot that and put it in their listing. I also offer a certificate of authenticity for an additional $10. You can also use that, but I always tell my clients use the email. Like,
right.
if you want something more formal, I'll happily offer it for an additional fee, but you can just use the email result and yeah, post that on your listing.
And you should put that in your listing.
Yeah.
Okay. That was my question. Okay.
And a lot
That's,
of I've had customers who are like, "Hey, I'm interested in buying this because I it says you authenticated it. Can you verify that you have?" And I just respond back with the email like, "Yes, that's correct."
well, I mean, that trust between buyer and seller is so important. So if somebody's buying a t-shirt from you or me, they're willing to take a risk. But if they're spending thousands of dollars, potentially even hundreds of dollars, they want to make sure it's real, especially if they don't have a lot of experience in buying that type of thing.
Mhm.
So that's really great information for us. Okay, so tell me about your service. So, um, how does your process differ from other AI driven? I know there may be some apps or whatever now. I haven't used them, but how does your process differ from just a bot looking at it?
So I am the only one authenticating the items. And what sets me apart from everyone else is you actually know the face, the person who is authenticating your items. A lot of these other companies, which I work for one of them, they contract out other authenticators, but you never really know who's actually authenticating your item. So, one thing I pride myself in within my company is that I am the face of my company. So, my reputation is super important to me. I have made mistakes. I own up to them and I make it right. And I think that's why a lot of my regulars stay with me is because they have a question, they know who they're talking to, and they get a human response versus like a bot response.
Right, I get that. So, what types of items do you just do handbags and small? What can I send you to authenticate?
I do clothing, I do ready to wear clothing, wallets, accessories, scarves, uh, designer watches. If it's like Gucci, Chanel, I won't do like the Rolex or, the other Patek or whatever. Um, Hats, like I do if it's a designer brand, most likely I will authenticate it. I won't authenticate cosmetics or perfume.
Okay. Um, and there's a lot of fake. I bought fake perfume one time on eBay and it smelled terrible.
Yeah.
I don't think eBay even authenticates it. And anyway, I learned my lesson. So if I want to use your service, what's like the typical turnaround time and what does the process look like? Like walk me through. Do you have an app? Do I send you an email? Like, and
So
what's your turnaround time?
sure, it's for the love of luxury.net. It's the standard authentication option. You get a response within 24 hours, sometimes same day, within a few hours, as long as I'm sitting by my desk. It's an email response. If I need extra photos, I'll send you an email like, hey, these are the photos I need. It's I think I already said it, it's $25. you guys do have a $5 off code using Casachic. And yeah, and if you ever need anything, like if you're at the thrift store, if you send me a message on my website, there's a little chat option, and you say, "Hey, I'm at the thrift store. Any way you can get this done?" If I'm available, I'll say yes, send it, within the next 15 minutes. If I'm not available, then that means like you won't hear from me. But I really try to be accommodating. A lot of my clients are resellers, so I definitely get that, sometimes they're out in the wild trying, to find some good things.
That's good to know. You might be sorry you told me
I
that.
no, yeah, I don't like tell people, but
No.
but people will
Okay.
message me, and I always try to be accommodating,
Right. So if you're there and you can help, great, but don't be mad if she's not because she doesn't wait by the phone for you to call,
Yes.
right? And you're a reseller too.
Yes.
So you're like supporting resellers by helping us, but you're also like one of us, which I really like. So
Yes.
that's really important. And I love that you're keeping the resale market trustworthy because before we started recording, we were talking about, we're not going to say the names, but live selling has a lot of fake stuff being sold. And so if you are buying stuff on those live auctions and the deals seem too good to be true, or somebody has 12 of something, you need to be
Red
careful, right?
flag. Yes, red
Yeah,
flag.
so that's a red flag. If somebody has a lot of something, luxury, it's most likely.
Mm-hmm.
And those fast auctions, it's really hard to even see what you're doing, that you get
Yeah.
all caught up. So I'm pretty sure that those platforms, if you order something on there, I guess, and you get it and you're like, "Ugh," you need to reach out to Paula and have her authenticate it so you can reach out to the platform and say, hey, I got this authenticated and it's fake. Give me my money back. So make sure you're doing that. Okay. So, what's one piece of advice you would give to resellers who are new to luxury? So they're
Okay.
like scared of it. Like we were talking about, like just because it has a date code. So, like, okay, so I have this passport wallet
Uh-huh.
that looks like it's a brand, but it's fake. It
Mm-hmm.
came in a grab bag and it says the name, it says
Oh.
Goyard, it's stamped, it's got the little thing, but it is, I mean, it was in a grab bag of other wallets and it's very nice, but it's very, you could tell in a minute. But so
Mm-hmm.
if I came across this and I'm like, well, it says Goyard and it says Goyard Paris made in France, and like, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who has like no idea?
If you have absolutely no idea, pay an expert.
Okay, that's good advice,
Pay an
right?
expert. You're not
Right,
the
that's
expert, so
good
pay
advice.
an expert. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. And what are two or three brands that are great starter luxury brands for sellers to learn how to kind of like ease into selling handbags or designer accessories?
I would say Gucci
Okay.
would be one because it's more accessible, I think, in the secondhand market, or even if you're sourcing online. And I think that the price point um, can start off lower compared to like Louis or Chanel.
Right.
A lot of
And
my reseller clients love to source Gucci, so that's why I bring it up. I authenticate
right.
Gucci all the time.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
I think because it's probably not as expensive new and there's more. And it was like really the first, I think like the first really logo designer brand like in the 70s.
Hmm.
Um, so now do you authenticate like the mid-range brands like the Tory Burch or the Coach?
Yep, I
Uh,
just got a submission yesterday for Dooney and Burke. So yes, the Coach,
okay.
the Tory Burch, Kate Spade. Now I don't see many fakes of it, but some people like to know. Longchamp is another one that I get submissions for as well.
Yeah, there are fake Longchamp. Um, the and most of the time, I will tell you, the fakes are the ones that use the most common styles, like the Louis Vuitton Neverfull or the Longchamp tote, the
Hmm.
nylon tote. Like the other bags aren't, they may be fake, but they're not as highly
Common, yeah.
faked, right? So when you find the common styles, you're probably more likely to find the common styles, but they're more likely, like the Speedy bag, like that's
Yes. It's so common.
Okay. So in closing, do you have any other advice for my students about?
Yeah, something that a lot of
Okay.
people don't take advantage of. Buy a Vogue subscription, a digital subscription. Well, the magazine comes with it. When you buy the Vogue's digital subscription, you get access to all, probably up until like the late 90s, archival designer runway shows. And what I suggest you do is take your time and study the clothing, the bags, the shoes that these models are wearing. Get familiar because when you're thrifting, you might see this ugly thing. It's vintage, the tag has might have been removed, but a lot of these pieces are like iconic. They're just so unique that if you study these runway pieces, you'll be surprised at how much money you can get for something that looks ugly. Okay. So get a Vogue subscription and study those runways.
That is great advice. That I was just thinking of that the other day that, I grew up, Vogue is like, I was telling you before, like I grew up in Boca Raton, like I grew up with bougie girls and we didn't pay attention to our chemistry, but we were like laying on the beach reading Vogue. So, like, I think that's part of the reason why I'm good at thrifting because I
Mhm.
learned at an early age, but it's never too late to learn. And I love that advice. That is so great. Thank you so much, Paula.
Thank you for having me.
So how do we find you?
Okay, you can follow me on all socials for the love of luxury. My website is fortheloveofluxury.net. Send me a DM. You can also chat me on my website. I'm always available.
Okay, I'll put the links below the recording. And if you need her help, go there. You get $5 off if you use my code Casachic. Thank you, Paula. This was so great. I really appreciate you speaking with us
Thanks,
today.
Julie.
Thanks.